The early 20th century was the renaissance of hatha yoga, but not only hatha yoga did arise at that very period. First of all, we must mention the Parahamsa Yogananda. Parahamsa Yogananda was, among other, also a popularizer of hatha yoga, although we must say that his yoga style was much more mystical and more spiritual. Here is his famous book, Autobiography of the Yogi. This was the only book on Steve Jobs' iPad, and which he had been rereading every day. This was the very person who inspired Steve Jobs, which is just one interesting fact of Paramahansa Yogananda. Here we see his picture together with his teacher, and Swami Lakshmanju. He is representing the tradition of intellectual yoga. He represents the tradition of Kashmiri Shaivism. Now it's very widespread in Western intellectual and scientific circles. Within this tradition, we must mention two great branches, two lineages which came to Europe from Swami Lakshmanju. Mark Dichkovsky, who lives in Varanasi and whom we regularly meet there. He is being the professor of Italian University, one of the greatest specialists in Sanskrit. Recently I received 15 volumes of his tantric text translations. He had made an enormous work. He is a very interesting personality, a mystical practitioner, lecturer, great translator, and popularizer of Kashmiri Shaivism ideas. And Bettina Boimer, the greatest scholar, who is also frequently in Varanasi. She created an excellent library in Varanasi in the field of Shaivism and Tantra. Both of them are tantric practitioners and very well known in modern yoga studies European circles. And another great personality and tantric practitioner, Vagish Shastri. He is also my teacher of Sanskrit. As of today he doesn't teach Tantra, doesn't give initiation, but he still teaches Sanskrit. In his 85 he is able to quote almost any classical and great Sanskrit text. He knows them by heart, only relying upon his memory, and he almost never uses any means of writing. While he was 85, he gave me 6 to 8 classes of Sanskrit per day, and while I was taking tea breaks in between those extensively hard lessons, he was capable to write scientific articles in the meantime. In this very man I witnessed the true Hindu Brahman as he should be. Before I met him, I faced quite an unpleasant feeling, but then while I was traveling India, I knew India's culture better than the Hindus. Vagish Shastri knows all the India's traditions, all the greatest texts, by heart. He also has the most profound knowledge of Sanskrit. Lately published a book called Sanskrit During Latest 2500 Years, from Panini's Ashtadhyayi till our days. And Vagish Shastri is one of the very few people living now who are in this book, who had the great contribution to Sanskrit studies. He is one of the 5 greatest Sanskrit scholars of today. And besides this, he is also a tantric practitioner. On his wall there are portraits of his 2 gurus, one in Sanskrit and one in Tantra. And now several branches of Tantra around the world are initiated by him.